You know how it is in the movies, right? An astronaut's helmet cracks, their suit tears, and bam, they either instantly explode or freeze solid. It's super dramatic. But how much of that is actually real science? Well, today, we're going to separate the Hollywood fiction from the truly shocking reality of what happens when the human body meets the vacuum of space.
So let's just jump right in with a question. Picture this. You're out on a spacewalk and your glove rips. Your bare hand is just out there, exposed to the void. What's the first thing that happens? Are we talking about frostbite or something way, way weirder? Let's find out.
All right, first things first. We have to bust some of the biggest myths out there. And honestly, we can thank a lot of bad sci-fi movies for these. There are two major things that almost everyone thinks happens, but they absolutely do not.
Okay, myth number one, the big one. You explode. The thinking goes that without any pressure on the outside, all the pressure on your inside just makes you pop like a balloon. But nope, the reality is your skin is an amazing, incredibly tough container. It's totally strong enough to keep you in one piece. So sorry to disappoint, but no exploding.
And myth number two, you instantly freeze solid. Now this one kind of makes sense on the surface. Space is super cold, right? Well, not exactly. It's mostly just empty. There's no air, no water, nothing to pull the heat away from your body quickly. You do lose heat, but it happens through radiation, which is a really, really slow process. Trust me, you'd have much bigger problems long before you ever froze.
So if you don't pop and you don't freeze, what are the real dangers? Now this is where things get interesting. There are three very serious, very strange things that start happening the second you're exposed. First up is a weird one called ebullition. Basically, the super low pressure of space makes the boiling point of liquids drop like a rock. You know how when you open a can of soda, it fizzes? That's the dissolved gas forming bubbles because of the pressure drop. Well, the same thing happens in your body. The water in your tissues and the nitrogen in your blood start to form gas bubbles. It's not boiling from heat, it's boiling from a lack of pressure. Next up, desiccation. So, that water turning into gas bubbles, it also happens on every wet surface of your body. The moisture on your tongue, in your eyes, even in the lining of your lungs. It all evaporates like instantly. So instead of freezing, your body is actually drying out at an incredible rate.
And third, this is the one that gets you first, hypoxia. The vacuum of space would literally pull the air right out of your lungs. And when that happens, the oxygen level in your blood just plummets. You'd pass out in about 10, maybe 15 seconds. This is the most immediate, life-threatening danger, hands down.
So you put all that together, and yeah, it's pretty grim. Ebullition causes that intense, painful swelling and bruising. It can even give you the bends, just like a scuba diver who comes up too fast. Desiccation leads to serious dehydration, and of course, hypoxia knocks you out almost immediately. It's a bad scene, and it all happens incredibly fast.
Now I know this all sounds pretty theoretical, right? But what's incredible is that we actually have a real-life case study of this happening. It's the story of a man who accidentally became a human guinea pig for space exposure.
Let me introduce you to Joseph Kittinger. Back in 1960, this guy was a U.S. Air Force pilot involved in some truly wild experiments, jumping out of balloons at the very edge of space to test high-altitude escape systems. And on one of those jumps, something went very, very wrong.
Okay, so let's walk through what happened. He jumps from a balloon way up at over 31 kilometers high. We're talking a near vacuum. But as he's falling, his right glove fails. It loses pressure. So for about 30 minutes during his descent, his bare hand is exposed to that environment before he gets low enough to safely open his parachute.
Just think about that for a second. 31 kilometers. That's over 100,000 feet up. The air pressure up there is next to nothing. For all practical purposes, he might as well have been in open space. And that's the key moment. One tiny equipment failure turned into this one-of-a-kind human experiment. For 30 whole minutes, while he was free-falling, his unprotected hand was experiencing all those effects we just talked about. So what happened to his hand? Well, it swelled up to twice its normal size. Twice. That was ebullition in action. The fluids in his hand were literally boiling in the low pressure, puffing it up just like a balloon. And, I mean, you can imagine this wasn't just a weird visual. He said it was incredibly painful. Having the water in your own body turn to gas and double the size of your hand, ouch. It's just a perfect, if terrifying, illustration of what ebullition actually does. So, a hand swollen to double its size, exposed to a vacuum for half an hour. You'd think that's it, right? He's going to have permanent damage, maybe even lose the hand. But the end of this story is what makes it so mind-blowing.
As Kittinger kept falling, he started moving back down into the thicker parts of the atmosphere. And as he did, the air pressure around his hand started to increase, pushing back against all that internal swelling. And what happened next is just incredible. By the time he landed, his hand was already returning to its normal size. And within a few hours, it was completely back to normal, fully functional, no permanent damage whatsoever. His body, once it was back in a pressurized environment, just recovered. It's the first and only proof we have that survival is actually possible.
So there you have it. You won't explode and you won't freeze solid. The real dangers, ebullition, desiccation, hypoxia, are way more complex and frankly way weirder. And Joseph Kittinger's amazing story proves it all. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other facts we've learned from sci-fi are completely and totally wrong?